Good Wednesday morning. Today, April 16th, the day after tax day. And I hope everything went smoothly for you. You got your taxes done, and now we can get back to enjoying springtime across North America and around Hampton Roads. My name's Meteorologist Craig Moeller. I work at 13 News Now here in Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina, and we've got you covered from today's edition of the Weather Desk. Each day, Monday through Friday at 9 o'clock, we tackle today's top weather headlines. And it's honestly a little bit of a slow weather day, nationally speaking, and looking around the world, but we still have some great topics to tackle. And we've done a little bit of research here. So let's talk about our topics today. Today, we'll start off with the National Weather Wrap. We will talk about some areas that are dealing with some windy conditions and the potential for some fire danger. So we do have some areas under red flag warning. I'll break that down for you, and we'll talk about what's going to change here over the coming week. Also, we're going to dive into why spring tends to be the windiest of the seasons. My colleague Hunter Forrest has a little piece we're going to share with that. Then we took a look, coming up shortly, we're not quite there, but we're just a few days out from the 15-year anniversary of the Deepwater Horizon disaster, that big oil leak down in the Gulf of Mexico. Some folks have referred to it as the BP oil spill down off the coast of Louisiana. Unbelievable amount of oil released into the Gulf of Mexico and its impacts. It's pretty incredible. Again, the 15-year anniversary, we're going to show you some of the coverage and some of the reaction going on 15 years ago when this happened, and we'll have an update kind of on how things are looking. As we get into the last thing here, of course, this is the big Easter weekend coming up. So I've got a national and a local outlook for your Easter weekend. If you've got any travel plans later this weekend, maybe you're going to visit some family around the Easter holiday weekend, we've got you covered here all across the country and certainly for Hampton Roads. So as I mentioned, we do have some pretty cool topics, an unbelievable view of the Northern Lights taken from one of the astronauts. We'll share that with you coming up as well. So some good stuff we're sticking around for. Hopefully you can do that with us. Let's jump in, though, with our first topic and the national weather situation, what's going on. I mentioned it's pretty quiet when we look from coast to coast. I mean, here in the Mid-Atlantic, an absolutely gorgeous day. You can see offshore there's a frontal boundary that is, again, prompting those clouds, but it is well offshore. Things very, very peaceful right now across the central U.S. and down across the deep south. As we look back across New Mexico, though, it is windy and it is dry. We talked about the fire danger. We'll come back to that. And then out to the west, things pretty quiet along the west coast. Folks out there ready for a break, and it's nice. They've got that. So let's take a look at our surface features and why do we have this relatively peaceful weather building over the eastern U.S. I mentioned this system has come through. The cold front already cleared the coast, so now we're welcoming the sunshine here in the Mid-Atlantic. But as high pressure builds in, that's sinking air, and where you have subsidence or sinking air, all right, we have a lot of sunshine, and that's going to be the case across the deep south. We also have light winds there. But with this little disturbance here, a little trough in that area of high pressure there, we're starting to see the winds picking up from the south in this region. And again, very, very dry conditions. That's where we have our fire danger, another storm system kind of getting its act together back across parts of the Intermountain West and back through Northern California. Let's take a look at the severe weather outlook. Again, nobody really targeted for widespread issues, but there is a level 1 threat. There could be a few isolated severe storms this afternoon from the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma, back across northern Oklahoma. You can see back across Kansas into western Missouri as well. And then back up towards Omaha and southwest Iowa. That's the general thunderstorm outlook. Now, as we take a look at the severe storm outlook again for tomorrow, as that system works eastward and tightens up a little bit, I think we start to see a little more robust storminess developing northern Missouri into Iowa. Iowa, kind of the greatest threat right there, kind of in the bullseye, but it's still a level 2 or a slight threat. Let's take this full for just a second. I'm going to grab a quick sip of coffee here, as I'm going to be doing a lot of talking here, and I don't want to clear my throat on camera, so hang on. All right, so again, we're taking a look here at this chance for storms back across the upper Midwest. This is coming on Thursday. By Friday, you can see the line works eastward, so from the Great Lakes region all the way back down across Oklahoma and Texas there, that level 2 threat. That does include Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, parts of the Ohio River Valley. So a larger area there as it works to the east. You're thinking, okay, this is Friday. Does this mean we're in for storms for the East Coast on Saturday or Sunday? Well, not necessarily. We've got high pressure that is going to be here kind of guiding some of the storminess and holding it off at bay a little bit out to the west. So this is what we're looking at as we head into the weekend. Now, take a look at the tornadic potential. It's pretty low. We don't see a lot of potential for tornadoes. That's not a big concern here. This is what the Storm Prediction Center is more concerned with. That's the hail potential. I'll just very quickly see if they updated anything on the tornadoes, and you can see they did not. So again, there's your tornado potential for Wednesday. We'll go back to the hail potential, and there you do see there is that chance. So what we could find developing with some of the storms that do pop up, and this is going to be later in the day, really tonight. That's when I expect this area to start popping up a little bit more. There is some potential for hail. And then, of course, the other thing, some gusty winds. So this is what we're looking at for today. Not a great tornadic threat, but maybe some gusty, damaging winds and some hail. We're going to talk some more about that strong wind potential. And as we get into, again, the next kind of focus here with this weather desk, you can see there are some high wind warnings that are out across New Mexico, and red flag warnings extend across most of New Mexico. There is a high wind kind of watch for this area, West Texas, North Texas, the panhandles up into Oklahoma and western Kansas. But the area is under red under this red flag warning because you've got low humidity, relative humidity less than 15%. And the winds for most of New Mexico expected to be in that 25 to 35 mile per hour range, some gusts 50 to 60 miles per hour. So we are seeing that potential, that combination of the very dry ground and the dry, low humidity, the dry atmosphere with those gustier winds, that could lead to some trouble out that way. We'll continue to watch that and let you know. Looking kind of big picture here, I mentioned we have over on the East Coast that we had that front come through, and now we're looking at west winds here. Now, it's not tremendously windy around Hampton Roads, but we have seen some gusts up around 20 miles per hour reported at Norfolk and up at Wallops. Down at Manio, a gust of 17 miles per hour. We'll check a few more locations like Virginia Beach at Oceana, a 21 mile per hour gust, and there was a gust of 20 miles per hour down at Duck. So again, it has been a little windy, and it will continue to be pretty gusty as we get into the afternoon. Some gusts up around 25 miles per hour. Certainly nothing that is damaging or anything that's going to be destructive, but clearly it is breezy. And with today's breezy conditions, let's toss it over now to meteorologist Hunter Force explaining why spring does tend to be the windiest season.
Over the last couple of weeks, you may have noticed the wind blowing more often as we transitioned from winter into spring. And as a rule, spring is the windiest season for a lot of the United States. Wind is formed in an attempt to restore balance from the differences in air pressure and, in this case, the difference between the inside and outside of the can. Once that pressure is equalized, the wind will stop. But the greater the difference in pressure, the stronger the wind. The same is true within the atmosphere, and as we transition further into the warmer months, the jet stream starts to shift a little bit further towards the north, creating a larger temperature difference between the north and the south, which in turn can support stronger pressure systems and stronger winds. So when a strong high and low pressure system are close together, a stronger pressure gradient is created, and that large change in pressure causes wind speeds to increase. For 13 News Now, I'm meteorologist Hunter Forst.
All right, Hunter, thanks so much. And that's why spring does tend to be the windiest of the seasons. Now, out on the water, even though it's a pretty nice day out there when you look outside, it is a little windy. We've got small craft advisories up for the Chesapeake Bay and for the coastal waters just off to the east of Virginia Beach. So you'll notice those winds gusting at times maybe up to 30 knots out on the Chesapeake Bay, and the waves running 3 to 4 feet. For the ocean waters, it's more like those winds around 25 knots, and they're actually going to ease a bit, but because the seas are still kind of kicking 4 to 5 feet, we also have that small craft advisory for the bay. So that's what's going on with that. Now you look outside and we are enjoying a lot of sunshine. There are a few fair weather clouds as we check out the Thompson Creek Window Company sky view. Again, this is from the Jordan Bridge. I showed this yesterday, but I do love this sky view. During the day, you can see back over towards Norfolk. That's the downtown Norfolk area, looking from the Jordan Bridge, which spans Portsmouth and Chesapeake. So you can see, again, one of our bridges way up high. You get a good look back towards the city, and it is nice. When you have clear skies, a lot of times, you keep an eye to the skies. You like to look up at the stars, and if you're far enough north and if there's enough activity with the aurora borealis, you can check out the northern lights. Well, take a look at this. NASA astronaut Don Pettit shared this remarkable video on the social media platform X. The video is showing the northern lights from space as the International Space Station was preparing to dock. This was last Tuesday. And just take a second here to enjoy this video. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, if you wonder how the northern lights form, and if you're interested in more on that, my colleague Taylor Stephenson is going to have a special segment on that coming up later on 13 News Now. She'll break down kind of some of the electromagnetic activity and the solar storms that can create brilliant northern lights. But it's certainly very cool from way up in space looking back at Earth. And again, we thank the astronaut again for sharing that. It's just an amazing thing that they get to see and do from outer space. All right, we'll take a look at this, and again, this is another image that comes to us from NASA, and it's a different look here. This one, it's kind of almost looks artistic, but this is not the kind of beauty that you want to see. You take a look, this is from the Deepwater Horizon disaster back in 2010. So here you go, you can see May 2010, and this is the tip of Louisiana, and you can see around New Orleans right up here. This was an oil spill, and it was tremendous. This Sunday will be the 11th anniversary of the Deepwater Horizon disaster, also known as the BP oil spill, one of the most catastrophic environmental incidents in history. In 2010, an explosion on BP's oil rig claimed 11 lives and triggered a devastating oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. Over nearly 3 months, more than 200 million gallons of oil spilled into the ocean there, just the Gulf down around Louisiana, and 4.6 million pounds of oily material was removed from the beaches. And it was reported that dolphins and other marine life continued to die in record numbers. Today, the long-term environmental impact continues to be felt. NOAA was on the scene within hours of the crisis, and still to this day, they are leading large-scale efforts to restore the natural resources in the Gulf. Let's take a look back at ABC's coverage on this historic event.
1 year ago, more than 200 million gallons of crude oil spilled into the Gulf of Mexico. It was the worst ecological disaster in U.S. history. Less than a year later, a new disaster shifted our focus away from oil to nuclear, with reactor meltdowns and leaking radiation in Japan.
Both of them had safety features designed to mitigate the severity of the accident. Both of those were overwhelmed by the scale of the disaster, and more people were harmed than needed to be.
Leaving many asking, are either safe?
According to one report, the rate of direct fatalities per unit of energy production is 18 times worse for oil than it is for nuclear power.
But there are no easy answers. Fossil fuel and nuclear power account for 92% of all the energy we use.
Neither one can be taken out tomorrow without huge disruption.
So in the wake of the oil spill, the government's top regulatory body was dissolved and tough new standards were put in place. including increased preparedness for emergencies and more testing of backup measures like a well's blowout preventer.
We've looked at the technology and the systems in place to make sure that we're decreasing the likelihood of this ever happening again.
At Fukushima, it wasn't the regulatory structure itself, but enforcement that wasn't aggressive enough.
People need to be confident in the performance of our regulatory system. And after an event like Fukushima, one thing that's in really short supply is public confidence.
Efforts are already underway within the nuclear industry to re-examine emergency preparedness, a must until clean and renewable energy technologies are able to match this country's enormous energy demands. Only then will the U.S. turn away from oil, nuclear, and other potentially dangerous energy sources. TJ Winnick, ABC News, New York.
Again, that coverage from about 15 years ago from ABC News. So here's what we have for you now. Looking forward, we're going to go with the weekend and, of course, the Easter weekend just about here. A lot of folks may be gathering with family or friends to celebrate the holiday. As we take a look at Saturday, you can see temperatures in the mid-80s. We've got a big warm-up coming to Hampton Roads. Skies are going to be partly sunny, obviously very warm, near record warmth actually as we go ahead. A good 15 degrees, say 14 or so degrees above average on Saturday. As we look ahead to Sunday, temperatures are going to fall back a little bit, but this is a change from earlier this morning. You know, the models for the past couple of days were hinting that there would be kind of a backdoor front dropping through the area, cooling us down for Easter Sunday and maybe triggering some showers. It now looks like the high pressure is going to continue to keep that front mainly across northern Virginia. It does look like at this point that the weekend will be dry. There is a chance that we could see a few stray showers, so I won't completely rule it out. I'll leave it at about 10% right now, but the models have been trending drier and warmer with high pressure still in control. Eventually, the situation is going to break down with an approaching system from the west. That's going to produce some wet weather. It looks like maybe late Monday into Tuesday. So we'll take a look at the European model coming up here in just a moment. But this is how we're looking for Norfolk. Again, a very warm weekend, Saturday mid-80s and then upper 70s to near 80 on Sunday. We may wind up bumping that up a little bit more. Stay tuned to 13 News Now over the coming days if you've got outdoor plans for Sunday. For weekend getaways, D.C., it's going to be a warm one, 88, 86 up around Richmond, Charlottesville, 86 as well. That's for Saturday. Notice the temperatures do cool down a bit on Sunday, upper 70s for D.C. Richmond and Charlottesville, though, warmer still in the low to mid 80s on Sunday. And that's because, again, the model kind of biting on this idea that cold front really doesn't make it that far south. So again, we may wind up tweaking our forecast for Norfolk up a little bit. It looks like at the Outer Banks will stay in the mid 70s for both those days. And I do think the cloud cover may be a little bit aggressive here as well. I think we will probably see some peaks of sunshine in that mix as well on Sunday. But that's something we're going to be watching as we get closer. So as we get additional forecast updates from our global models, and eventually we get in within like 24 to 48 hours, maybe 72 hours, our high-res models really take over, and we'll be looking more closely at the specifics with our weekend. Now, here's a look at the eastern, really two-thirds of the country here with the European forecast. Looking ahead, you can see how today and tonight things are very quiet up and down the eastern seaboard. You look back across the central U.S. and our Thursday afternoon looks to be wet around St. Louis, back across Illinois, southern Indiana, back into parts of western Kentucky. It's going to be unsettled up across Minnesota and over towards Wisconsin. And then you take a look out to the west. Let's take this full. Again, we do have that chance for some wintry weather back across Wyoming. So let's pull the map over here and take a little closer look at that. Again, this is the European model, but you could see some heavier snow maybe across parts of southern Montana and into Wyoming. That's how things are looking right there. As we go into our Friday at 3 o'clock, some of that snow extending farther south down along the Wasatch Range. You can see the snow through Utah and then back down into Arizona. Some wet weather there. Back across the Rockies, more snow, and that snow extends back up towards the Tetons as well. More rain across the north central U.S. and again, the East Coast and the southeast U.S. looking pretty good with dry conditions Again, beautiful weather down in Florida. All right, we're going to take a look right now at what happens as we look ahead to our Saturday. Now we're getting more of that wet weather extending back across parts of the eastern Great Lakes, Lake Erie and Lake Ontario there as we take a look around New York State, back down through Pennsylvania, Ohio there, right around Cleveland and Lake Erie. Maybe some light showers right along the lake shore. As you go south through Indiana, Illinois, and Missouri, unsettled weather there for that first part of the weekend. It looks like it's going to be unsettled back across parts of Oklahoma. And then again, some more snow back across Colorado. West Coast looking pretty good, but the Northwest dealing with some unsettled weather. And we'll see some more chances for, it looks like, rain around Seattle there into Easter Sunday. It looks like Easter's going to be a wet one across the central U.S. from Minnesota and Wisconsin, back across Chicagoland, back through Iowa, Omaha, back into Kansas City, St. Louis, down through Little Rock, showers reaching Memphis, and down through Louisiana and the Texas coastline. So we'll continue to watch that, while our coast here doesn't look too bad. So Hampton Roads, again, I do expect a little more cloud cover, but if the models are correct, the Euro's on it and the GFS on it, we should remain dry on Sunday. And then as we get into Monday, that's when you see those showers approaching. Again, a chance for showers coming up later Monday night and into our Tuesday. So that's how that model plays out. Now we'll take a look at some selected cities and get into forecast highs across the region. We'll start off with the East Coast. And as we take a look here, you're going to notice up around Boston and New York City, a mix of clouds and some sunshine. Temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. This is for Friday. 83 at Raleigh, 86 in Atlanta, 85 in Orlando and around New Orleans as well. Back across the central U.S., temperatures there in the mid 80s. Little Rock and St. Louis, Chicago looking pretty good at 80 degrees. Cooler in Omaha. And for Friday, again, temperatures in the mid 80s with some wind down around Houston. We're going to see that unsettled weather I was showing you with the European model. It looks like parts of Colorado, Denver, Salt Lake City could see some snow up on the benches. The valley probably closer to 50, 51 degrees, but high enough over the Wasatch Range, you get up a few more thousand feet and you find the colder conditions. Things looking pretty good for Friday out along the West Coast. Let's go to Saturday, and we'll zoom in Saturday. Same thing. A lot of folks traveling, so how about it? Looking good for the Northeast, really up and down the eastern coastline. Some unsettled weather in Cleveland. Things pretty good around Atlanta. Hot down there, 87. Rain chances, Little Rock, colder air settling in around St. Louis and Chicago, back up towards Minneapolis. Chances for showers and storms, Oklahoma City into Dallas. And again, Houston looking a little breezy. Out west, plenty of sunshine. L.A., Vegas, Salt Lake City, and Billings all looking good. A little unsettled for the Northwest. Now I want to bring it back and we'll take a look at our Easter Sunday. And we told you we were going to have a more detailed look at this holiday weekend. That's why we're doing this for you. You can see temperatures in the mid 80s for Raleigh, but much cooler for Boston and New York City. Looking good if you're traveling that way over the holiday weekend. New Orleans, 83. We're going to find the chances for the unsettled weather. As I mentioned, from Minnesota through Chicago and Illinois, Wisconsin, there back across Missouri, Nebraska, back down through Oklahoma and into East Texas, chances for showers and storms. So we'll continue to watch that. Looks like a little storminess on the holiday as we look out to the west. Again, quiet conditions for most of the southwest and the western U.S., but still a little unsettled up around Seattle. So that's what we're looking at. As far as our local weather headlines go, here's what we have for you. The sunny and breezy conditions today. We've talked a lot about it. We have beautiful weather for Hampton Roads, and if you're right here in the 757 or Northeast North Carolina, we'll enjoy the next couple of days. There is a warm-up coming. While it is a little on the chilly side, it's not unbearable right now. Temperatures topping out mid to upper 60s today and tomorrow, but then that warm-up Friday back into the upper 70s and then mid 80s on Saturday. Our next good rain chances coming up Monday night into Tuesday with that next system. All right, yesterday we made it up to 77. Our normal high is 70. We're about a half an inch or so below average for the year. Temperatures at this point, just around 9:30 this morning, we have temperatures low to mid 50s on the peninsula, mid to upper 50s across the south side and most of northeast North Carolina. Out to the west, a little cooler right now at Roanoke Rapids and Emporia, but they're going to be catching up pretty quickly. So as we go through the day, the temperatures climb up this afternoon into the mid and upper 60s. Pretty good day, just a little on the cool side and a little bit breezy, but skies are going to be mostly sunny, so we'll enjoy that. Overnight tonight, mainly clear, chilly tomorrow morning. Temperatures in the upper 30s, Wakefield, Franklin, Hosky, Emporia, all pretty close to 40 degrees. Same thing at West Point. Newport News around 44. We'll see temperatures in the upper 40s in Virginia Beach, mid 40s at Melfa, and 50 there for Norfolk. Through the day tomorrow, temperatures staying cool, mid 60s. That's it, low to mid 60s across parts of the area. Not much warmth to work with for your Thursday, but by Friday, that's when we start to kick it back up a little bit, and we'll get up into the 70s. So mid to upper 70s coming up Friday. That's going to feel really nice with more sunshine. Saturday looks good. Temperatures get even warmer up into the 80s. So highs today around 66 degrees, maybe 67. That's about it across the south side. Peninsula, temperatures mid to upper 60s there. Williamsburg looking pretty good at 67, 65 at Hampton and Newport News, 65 at Gloucester, low 60s on the eastern shore. Down across northeast North Carolina, mid 60s, Kill Devil Hills and Manteo. Temperatures upper 60s, Elizabeth City to Hertford, 67 around Edenton. Now, as we look at tonight's forecast, the low should be near 47. We'll say 47 to near 50 right at the beaches. Inland areas are going to be cooler, though. Some spots upper 30s to near 40. So it will be mainly clear and chilly. Pretty chilly inland, especially. Light north winds about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tomorrow, temperatures in the mid 60s, so sunny but cool. Another nice day, just on the chilly side of normal. And then as we look ahead, we're going to see those temperatures really warming up. We still have extreme high tree pollen. That continues to be a big issue. I was getting some pictures and some notifications from friends, either pictures of all the green kind of pollen collection on the cars or piles of tree droppings back across their yards that have kind of been wind piled up and everything else. So there's a lot of pollen out there. My wife wanted to sleep with the windows open at the house, and I was thinking, you know, that's fine, but there is a lot of pollen still kicking around. So you may need to get through the next week or so, things hopefully improving, but then it won't be long before grass kicks in and then weed pollen later in the summer. All right, here's a 7-day forecast. Our temperatures are going to be trending up. As I mentioned, a big bump on Saturday. We'll welcome that high of 84. Back to 79 on Easter Sunday. Looking pretty good for us. We may take that temperature and push it up a little bit more later on today, so be sure to join Hunter Force today at noon, and Evan Seward will update that forecast again this evening right here on 13 News Now. On Monday, evening showers possible, and that threat of isolated showers will continue into Tuesday. Want to remind you, you can always get the forecast when you download our 13 News Now app. It's a great resource for you to have access to our radar, access to everything you want to know from the 13 News Now weather team. You download it. Obviously, it is a free app, as most notable news organizations should provide these apps for free. We want to keep you connected and keep you informed, and that is always the case here at 13 News Now. Hopefully you enjoyed this edition of the Weather Desk, today's top weather headlines. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. We're going to be back tomorrow with another edition starting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Have a great day.